Hello, good evening from me and little mini me here. How the devil are we all back for the second time tonight? At the start of the season, I thought if we have a bad season, what I can do is I'll do a show on the Women's Super League. That will take my mind off things. This is Leicester Till I Die TV. It's the WSL Review Show. Good evening.
It's time! Strap yourself in, because we're set up, switched on, and ready to go.
You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts. Till I Die TV, your first choice for everything Leicester City. Tune in and join in now.
And now, here's your host.
Right, Chris.
All right there, and I will apologise now. I have got a dodgy mic. That's him. Very, very dodgy. So if I suddenly go quiet, it'll be over to my co-host this evening to run it on her own. She will be very, very happy because she's on top of the league. Maisie, good evening. How the devil are you?
Good evening, Chris. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Well, I've got two teams, one of which was bottom, one of which is bottom. So probably not the best. I don't know how the under-19s are doing at the moment,
You might have to do some under-19s content.
Yeah, maybe it's my fault. Maybe that will kill them off as well. Finally, lovely to get to do this. We did the preview at the start of the season, and I have got your predictions ready to compare as we go through. We were going to be doing this every week, but with the sad passing of a Madge and then one or two that we played Monday night, it's this is the first review. Unfortunately, one of the things you did get right, who would be bottom of the league. But you obviously, like I said, well, not obviously, but you are a huge Man United fan, men and women. Your details are in the description below permanently on all my videos, but just give people a shout out as to where they can find you.
My YouTube channel is Devils United. Just as Chris has mentioned, I do Manchester United content for men and women's football.
Indeed. And if you want to find the Devils United on Twitter, but don't forget, she is the woman with the 2 underscores.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And that's something that Chris learnt from me very quickly.
It is. I mean, and I'm not being rude, sexist, and it isn't a euphemism or anything like that. It literally is 2 underscores before. And it looks like 1. Come on, it looks like 1.
Wait, it's longer than a normal one.
Well, thank you for telling me. It's very kind of you. Every now and again, it's nice as a man to get told that. Anyway, let's move on quickly before that starts going down any weird roads. And let's have a look. We've got a bit to catch up on, but we'll have a look at this weekend's games. Just the one game to start us off on the on the Saturday. Aston Villa women losing out by the odd goal to the other Clarets, West Ham. These pretty much, is this the way you would have expected this game to go?
If you was looking at last season, most likely, probably. But compared to last season, Aston Villa have really switched it around. I actually think that they've got the second best manager in the league, Carla Ward. I think she's absolutely outstanding. For anyone who doesn't know women's football, I'll just say a quick fact about Carla Ward. She kept Birmingham City up a couple of seasons ago with only 11 players.
Wow.
With just 11 players. So it just really speaks levels. And she's been backed with Rachel Daly, which we would know very well from the Euros as well. She could literally play anywhere on that pitch. She's been an absolute goal machine so far this season. West Ham are quite a physical team. Don't know if you've seen the red card incident for West Ham. They had a couple of red cards because the manager got sent off as well. But there was Sissoko was aggressive to one of the players. She hit one of the Aston Villa players 3 times.
Hit?
Punched her 3 times.
I thought this was a nice, gentle game. I praise the women for when they get tackled, that when they go down, if they stay down, that they're injured, and there's not the 300 twists and turns and rollovers. I didn't realise there was like boxing matches in there as well.
Well, Sissoko is one of them kind of players where she is very aggressive, let's just say.
Wow. Is West Ham, is that still run? Because I remember seeing something. I don't think it was last season, the season before on the BBC. It was one of those that followed Match of the Day at like 12:30 in the morning, I think it was, about West Ham was being run by one of the owners of the main club's children. Is that still the case? Do you know?
Not too sure, to be honest, but don't have a clue about West Ham, to be fair.
No. In fact, I just didn't know, because he seemed to have no clue as to what they were doing. So, Birmingham went down last season, but Villa, they're looking very good so far this season. But it came to an end, like you say, against West Ham. And then we move into Sunday's games. Now, let's do it now and get it out of the way, please. Manchester City 4, Leicester City 0. Now, I've done a couple of watch-alongs with Brad, because Brad's really into the women's football as well. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about Leicester. We were doing all right, and then we seemed to just sort of capitulate. 1-0 at half time. Because I was surprised that Manchester City, who were third last season, were actually third from bottom going into this game.
There's a couple of factors for that with Manchester City. Last season, they actually didn't have a good run at the start of last season, but the reason why they finished third compared to finishing in fourth is that they went on an unbeaten run since when we played them in February to the end of the season. They won every single game in the league, so that helped them tremendously. But I've predicted Man City to finish fourth this season, as you already knew, and they've lost a lot of the key players. Lucy Bronze has moved to Barcelona.
Yeah.
Georgia Stanway has moved to Bayern Munich. And I must say, Georgia Stanway made me laugh singing Sweet Caroline to the Bayern Munich players.
I read about that. Yes.
I watched the video. It was funny. Kira Walsh, who I think is the rock of both England and City, has gone to Barcelona as well. Wow. They've got Jess Park on loan, who I think is a great player, to Everton, and when she played against Liverpool last week, she was brilliant. The only thing is with City, they lost that many midfielders because Jill Scott retired as well. Ellen White, she retired, so they've lost already 5 players. And they only had, I think, there's about 2 midfielders left. So on the last day of the season, they literally had to go out to West Ham, to their defensive midfielder, Hasegawa, who scored against Leicester. She actually was from Japan, and I'm sure she's won the World Cup with Japan as well. They went and got her for like a good bargain, I think, and they've got someone from Atletico Madrid near to the start of the season. But I just think, in my opinion, you don't lose your best players like that. You can't do like. I know Kira Walsh was for a very good price for their 400k, what makes the richest, the most expensive transfer in history. But
Right.
you wouldn't do that if you've only got then at that time 2 midfielders left from the previous season.
I must admit, of course, obviously they got Chloe Kelly there as well.
Yeah.
Man City. I was sat there and I got my head in my hands thinking like, oh God, they've got Chloe Kelly. She was actually very disappointing for me.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't really get into the game, but you're looking at it now, and I said, we know we're going to struggle. I think that's fair to say. I mean, you've got us as finishing bottom. Thank you very much. But I'm to be honest with you,
on Depot.
I kind of will. I mean, it's going to be one of those seasons that we played Everton the other week, and it was 0-0 up until about the 94th minute, and the goalkeeper decides to fumble it into her own net when going for a goal. I mean, it would have been easier to have just left it and let it go out, but I just think, I mean, 1-0 we were there, but we never looked like we could get anything from the game.
Mm-hmm. The thing is with Leicester, if you want to stay up, you need to look at the teams around you because it's a very hard competition, the WSL, because it's so narrow and compact. If you are wanting any chance to stay up in the WSL, you need to look at teams like Reading, Liverpool. You'd even look at even Brighton, even perhaps Everton, because they're a bit sloppy at times. You need to look at them kind of teams to try and get points. Even if you get the odd win somewhere or the draw, it all counts. Because when you've only got 12 teams, it's like you need to try and get as many points as you can. It's not like the Premier League, is it, where you can afford to lose a game somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was an annoying thing with that one, that 1-0 loss to Everton, is if that hadn't have happened, it was a point we would have gained and we were up and running. But we played Blackburn in the Continental Cup and we beat them 3 or 4-0. Now they're obviously in the second tier, and I'm just wondering. I mean, Leicester. This is only the second ever, time in the top flight. Is the Championship as hard to get out of? Is it the Championship? I might be calling it the wrong name there. Is the second tier as hard to get out of as the Championship is in the men's game?
Yeah, you called it the Championship. You got it right. But in terms of it's for me, in terms of the Championship, you need to basically win most games to get in, because there's some brilliant teams in that league. Bristol City's a great team. Sheffield United. Birmingham's been in the WSL for a long time, and another good team, physical team, is Durham. Even though there's only 12 teams in there, I think it's just a lot more intense, in my opinion.
Yes.
Just because I think there's still some great players with some quality. Liverpool got relegated, I think it was the 2019 season, and they've only just got back up. So it is quite a struggle, and I think the thing is with Leicester right now is that you're too good to be in the Championship, as it's quite evidently when you play Blackburn, but you need to have a bit of tweaks to be a WSL team as well.
I think we need to, I think we need to look at ourselves, because I'm looking at the game there. 1-0 virtually up until 79, 80th minute. And then it just literally collapsed from that point on. And it was just a case of like, oh, please just blow the final whistle, But in fairness to the women, they didn't give up. They gave it their all, more so than the men in fairness. But yeah, it's going to be a long, hard season on the ladies' side of things as well. But
you need to think of as well, just before you continue, is that I'm looking at your team, what you did play against Man City. You lost out on your best striker anyway. She's actually a former Manchester United player, Jess Sigworth. She's currently on an ACL, so that's always going to play a big factor, that you've not got your main goal scorer. And Natasha Flint, she's a big miss for the team. And when you've not got them senior players in the team, and you've got a fairly young team, like you've got one of our youth players in there, actually, Carrie Jones. I can see that you are trying to change things up every game, but I think you need that. For me, in my opinion, you need to have a consistent formation and a bit of more of a consistent starting 11 as well.
Yes.
So it's more structure for the team.
Yeah. Well, like I say, it's a longish, it's a marathon, not a sprint, as they always say. You know, when I say that, I'm like, after one game left to play, you can tell me to shut up. But let's put a smile on your face. Top of the league, Man United women 4, Brighton and Home Albion women 0. I mean, you didn't pick yourself to be doing this well this season.
I predicted 3rd for us to finish at the end of the season. That's still that'll be the highest we've ever finished if we do finish 3rd. When I look Brighton, I've a good side to play against, and they can be sometimes a bit hard to get into. But the thing is what I've noticed differently about Man United this season compared to last season. They're one of them teams now where I want to finish this game off in the first half and end it like that. Yeah. Whereas last season we was playing for a 1-0 win. And you could tell the hunger and the fight. We've got the squad depth, what I think is the best I've ever seen for Manchester United, because we've always had I think there's you can have up to 26 players, and we've always had 23 or 22. We get a fair bit of injuries throughout the season. We've got one currently on an ACL, who was our main centre back, and we had, I think at one point we only had one centre back last season, and we had to play a defensive midfielder as a centre back and a box to box midfielder because a defensive midfielder was injured. So we literally had one defender. We actually had one centre back, and we had to play a box to box midfielder as a centre back. That's how bad our injuries got, and I think we've got as well. We're looking at players who have got that bit of, how can I say, they've got some bit of winning mentality in them. One of the players who scored, Adriana Leon, she's won the Olympics. That's something you could say brilliant. And Nikita Paris, she's recently won the Euro. She's won the Champions League. She's won the WSL. She's won the FA Cup. You can literally look at Nikita Paris and go, what haven't you won?
Yeah. And you got one of my favourite England players from the Euros, Elliott James.
Yeah. For me, she's one of the best young players in the WSL by a long shot. The way she plays, it's so good to watch. The way she gets into narrow spaces. She scored 2 goals as well in the game. Her first 2 goals of the season. But there's one who I do like, who we did sign, is Mais, defender. We bought her from Brighton. She's only 19 years old, and I generally look at her and think, you would not think she was 19 years old. She literally plays like she's in her prime, like she's 27. That's how good she is.
And I mean, you said earlier about finishing teams off in the first half. It was 3-0 at half time. Now we know, it's not the end of the game, but it was as good as, isn't it? 3-0 at half time, you would be disappointed if you didn't come away with the 3 points.
Exactly, and this is the thing, because we're at Manchester United, we've got we speak to the players, we speak to the manager, and we've said to Matt Skinner, we need to look at goal difference, because especially in this kind of league, you need to look at the likes of Brighton. I'm sorry to say, even Leicester. You need to look at as well. You need to look at Reading as well, who we beat quite comfortably. In I even say that you would look at Liverpool, look to a degree and go, right, we need to get as many goals as we can, because if you look 2 seasons ago, we was literally a goal difference was why we finished 4th. And that's what we need to do. We need to aim and continue further onto that goal difference. So the only problem is that even we've won 3-0 first half, and we're like, okay, we can drop off a little bit now. We're 3 goals up. Does it matter if we concede? That's what the kind of thing that I got off United. Because realistically, if you got 3-0, if that was Serena who was playing, she'd be like, right, I want 6-0 now.
Yes.
And I just don't think Matt Skinner had had that. It's like, oh yeah, 3-0, brilliant, well done, everyone. That's fine, but you need to aim that a little bit more further. And I'm just a bit more cautious about goal difference more than anything, because we need to be, as I say, we need to be beating the best teams as well, of the Arsenals and Chelsea's.
Well, that's what worried me with Leicester, just to go back, because it wasn't a 4-0 game, and obviously it was a 4-0 game because that was the score, but you know what I mean, and to say that it was 1-0 up until virtually the 80th minute, and that would have been fine, but we then just, like I say, that could come back and bite us on our bum at the end of the season, because there's going to be 2 or 3 teams, I think, that are going to be down there. And if we do stay up again like last season, it was 1 point that saved us. Could be by the skin of our teeth with goal difference. We've got to stop conceding, so many, we just seem to turn off, and you fight to the end. I mean, Mike says here he needs to watch some WSL. You do, Mike. It is. I really enjoy it. I got into it with the Euros, and you take it as it is. It's not, you're not necessarily going to. Well, I've got to say, I was about to say you're not going to necessarily see Ronaldo out there, but I've seen some lovely touches and lovely play from some other women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some fantastic players in the WSL, and I know we're going to touch on to them when the teams come. But like Sam Kerr for one, Frank Kerber, Vivian Miedema, Stina Blackstenius, they're players from rival teams of Manchester United this season, of who you look at and go, they're absolutely beautiful in terms of how they play. And you look at Man City as well. Oh crap, who am I thinking for Man City now? Lauren Hemp.
That was bad timing.
Lauren Hemp. I'll go with Lauren Hemp.
Yeah, that'll do. Moving on very quickly. Talking about not conceding silly goals and what have you. It's not your day when you lose 3-1. The opposition score all 4 goals, and the last one's in the 95th minute. But that was Everton. Chelsea put them to the sword. I mean, Chelsea, we know how good Chelsea are at the women's football. European champions last season, WSL champions. Are they going to do it again this season? Again, I didn't see the game, but looking at the scoreline, it seemed to be sort of one way.
Yeah, the thing is with Chelsea, even I think played Chelsea. That's how good they are. Like Man United's never even won a game against Chelsea ever since they've come. That's how good they are, and they've got literally world-class players all over that pitch. That one who scored an own goal, she's literally just won the Champions League with Leon, and she's come to Chelsea. You've got Melly Bright, Euro champion player. Eve Perisic, Champions League player, semi-finals player for the Euro. Erin Cuthbert, best player in Scotland. Lauren James breaking into the England squad, still only very young. You've literally got a world-class player in every single position in that Chelsea squad. You can, even when you look at Chelsea's bench, what they had, that bench could even get you top 4 or top 3. That's how good the bench is. And I know when Roman Abramovich used to be the owner for Chelsea, he usually used to actually invest in his own money to the Chelsea squad so they could have the best. So they literally have. And Emma Hayes is a fantastic manager.
So just going to, and you've just reminded me, I meant to ask this to you when we were talking Man United, because not all the clubs are owned by the main club. Say main clubs. That sounds condescending, and it's not meant to be. But not all the clubs are owned by the Premier League version of the clubs, if you like. Are Man United owned by the Glaziers?
Yeah, they're owned by the Glazers, and we had the 6th highest budget in the league.
No.
In the summer, the 6th, and you look at that and think that's really poor, because you look at how much Manchester United will make billions, won't they, in shirt sales, in terms of revenue, the mega all sorts. They will make absolutely billions. And from the WSL table, Manchester United will probably have easily probably be the richest, if not the second richest team in that league. So you look at it and think you should be investing a little bit more. If they actually invested properly, we could have been a Champions League club by now.
Yes, because I only realised the other day that if the main, again, I'll say main clubs, but I'm not being patronising or condescending when I'm saying that, but that, and it certainly happened with Leicester because we'd bought the women's team. That helped us with the FPL. Sorry, the FFP is what I meant to say. This gin's really good, even though most of it went down my chest earlier. But we got, we were allowed a little bit more, give because we'd bought a women's team. So are you as happy? I mean, obviously, you're not happy with the Glazers and the men's team. From that, what you're saying, you're not a lot happier with them the way they are with the women's team.
No, I think the Glazers have always been poor with the women's side. Don't know if you was aware, but they actually scrapped the women's team in 2005. Scrapped it completely. And we brought it back in 2018. Typical, because they probably thought, oh, yeah, it's getting big now. Might get a bit of something out of it.
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing what I think goes through their minds is obviously money. This is what annoys me about Manchester United as well. Since January last year, we're still looking for a head of development for our women's team.
Wow.
We haven't found a head of development, and that's other things you've got to blame upon. Sixth highest budget. Like, you look at it and think, Tottenham having a higher budget. Man City probably, Chelsea probably, Arsenal, we should be on the level with Arsenal in terms of budget. Yeah. Reading having a higher budget, and that's something where you look at and think, Reading a higher budget, who's actually a current championship club.
I mean, I don't obviously, know the full ins and outs of the workings of all the other teams, male or female, but you would look at the way the games are going now, and I think if any club doesn't realise what can be gained by having a women's team, and it's two-way. I mean, it's two-way because, yes, obviously the owners and the clubs will get it, but also it will help develop the women's game as well.
Definitely. I'll look at Man United as well because we formed the same year as Real Madrid. Because Real Madrid only formed this quite recently too. I think we're probably one of the youngest teams in terms of when they formed in the league, and Real Madrid after 2 seasons got into the Champions League. And I look at that and think, is it because of they've got 20 teams in their league in the women's La Liga? So I look at it and think, is it the fact that they've invested, or is it the lack of that there's lack of how can I say competition? But if a team's only formed in 2018, you wouldn't expect them to be a Champions League club so quickly either.
No. But then I suppose, like you said, a lot of it could be the competition. But when United, I would say, from only being formed in 2018 to where you are now, I'm sure there's teams that were formed before Man United that you've sort of passed on the way up, if you like.
Yeah, Liverpool, Reading, Tottenham used to be a Champions League club. Everton was round about there. Liverpool, I think, won the league many a time ago. Birmingham was a top 4 team once upon a time ago as well. So we definitely surplussed a lot of them teams. But I think when you've been there, then it's like getting on to 5 years, I think, and we haven't won a trophy since we've won the championship. So it's like we want that little bit more now.
Yes. Moving on to Tottenham. I mean, Liverpool, again, it was an early own goal from Liverpool that gave Tottenham the 3 points. I wasn't sure because I fell into this trap when I was watching the Euros. Is that, again, I rated the women's teams by how good the men's teams were. So I expected sort of, I suppose, I can't think of an example now. Sorry?
Reading to be crap.
Oh, yeah. And but Liverpool only just coming up, but they've not done bad since they've come up. I mean, they beat Chelsea on the opening day.
I think for me, Liverpool's been a bit of hit and miss because they've got a good team. Like, they've got some brilliant players there. But the thing is, I look at Tottenham, who they played. They basically played 11 defensive players on that pitch. 11. Like, their winger, Ashley Neville, is a fullback, and they played her as a winger. Spence, who they played up front, is a defender. It's like they literally played out for a draw or a 1-goal win. Whereas with Liverpool, the thing is, what I found with Liverpool, and I think it will. Chelsea's not been too good so far, but once they get into form and they played how they did against, Liverpool played how they played against Everton, against Chelsea, further on when they've picked up a bit, they will get battered with the way they're playing because they're playing too high up. They're not allowing they're not allowing anyone to play back. So for someone, and that's cost a lot of counter-attacking goals, and you can't play like that, especially when you've got pacey wingers, pacey strikers who's willing to go on counter-attacks.
That said, since that opening day win, they've lost 2, Liverpool. So maybe they've peaked early, but Tottenham, I mean, they're sat there sort of, well, it's early days, but say they've won 2, but you take any win, don't you, if it comes your way?
Definitely, and they've got some good players there though as well. Tottenham, like I've mentioned, Spence. She's recently won the league because she went from Chelsea. This is the thing, you'll see a lot of players coming from rival teams. Another one, Neville, who I've already mentioned, she's probably one of the best fullbacks in the league. Trying to think of some. Amy Turner, she's a former Manchester United player. She's come back to the league and she was considered probably one of our best centre-backs. So they've got some great players in there, but it's about how you're going to use them as well.
Yeah. North London rivalry, I presume Arsenal are the better team, Arsenal women, than Tottenham women. Am I correct in assuming that?
Easily. They've already played, I think Arsenal won 4-0 or something the last game.
Wow. I'm looking at the game here, Arsenal away to Reading, and I think this is the difference when I look at these games. It's obviously, at the moment, I'm looking at Reading, they're down there with us, so, they're only losing by the odd goal and we're losing by like 4. Were you surprised that it was only 1-0, or would you have expected that to be more?
To be honest, I was pretty surprised it was 1-0. I wanted 2 goals or less for Arsenal, because if it was obviously 2 goals or less, we would have been on top of the league. So thank you, Reading. I never thought I'd thank Reading for something, but
no.
The thing is with Reading, they can switch it up. They're a very, very tough side to play against at times. They've got some very experienced defenders, very physical defenders as well. And what can I say? And I think that Reading was able to break down Arsenal very quickly, and I think Arsenal probably over expected what they was doing with Reading, because I think it's very hard to estimate Reading. You can't go in and think Reading's going to play like this, because they play different every single game. Like, they got a win against Chelsea. I think that was them, and Arsenal was the only 2 teams Chelsea lost last season.
Wow. Well, that was all the games. It is sort of splitting up the table now. And again, I don't want to really do this, but I'm going to go and have to. Yeah. It's been a long time since I got that noise out of a woman. And I have to say, never online. moving on. We won't talk key rings either. How good does that look for you? You must be happy.
Just perfect. Absolutely perfect. Three games, 3 wins, but we've had easy games. Let's be real. But our test now is going to be in November when we play Chelsea. That will show how much we've improved as a team because we've got Hughes next week. Then we've got Everton. Then we've got Chelsea. So it's going to be a tough one, but we need to gain as much points as possible. And like you're right, I am buzzing, but I can't get my hopes up too quick. But us and Arsenal, we've not even conceded a goal. Perfect 9 points as well. You can't really ask for much more, can you? To be honest, off the team,
you can't. And I'm really looking forward to that game.
Which game?
When Man United play Leicester.
I don't think you want to be.
No, there was just a tad of a hint of sarcasm in my comment there. To be honest, I will probably be watching it from behind the settee. So, if you haven't conceded, and the way that we're conceding at the moment, you've scored
got the best goalkeeper in the league.
Sorry,
we've got the best goalkeeper in the league.
Well, you've got 10 goals. I mean, when do you play Arsenal? Because that's going to be a cracker.
That's actually the game after at Chelsea.
Is it?
So we've got Chelsea at home, then Arsenal away, and then we've got Aston Villa.
I mean, looking at that there, and you say you've had easy games, but they sometimes can be the hard ones to win because you expected to win, and it was almost like when we played City that, we were kind of saying, well, it's almost like a free hit, but you don't want to lose, like I say, 4-0 and what have you. But the 3 that you've got there in the top, would you say it's going to be the battle between those 3?
I don't think we'll be in the title race, if you want my opinion. Because I think we'll definitely lose Chelsea home and away because we don't really have that mentality of we need to beat this team. But I think it's a tough one because Arsenal was unbeaten until I think it was December last season, and then was it January, December or January, and it was a loss that they shouldn't have really lost. And then there was drawing a couple of games, and that helped Chelsea creak up. So you never really know in terms of this Arsenal team. And the thing is, with Arsenal as well, they haven't really bought anyone. They've only bought 2 players in the summer transfer window, whereas Chelsea's invested massively into this squad. They've got Champions League win. They've got winning mentality all over that pitch.
Well, let's just have a look. We'll go. I know it's early days yet, but I do like a good compare me. And let's have a look where you said people were going to end up. So you had Chelsea.
Hey, I had Man United as third.
You did. In fairness, Chelsea top, Arsenal, and then Man United, which are the top 3 at the moment. They're the top 3 at the moment. Manchester City there. Unfortunately, at the other end, you had, Leicester. I've got to be honest with you. I think all I can say is it's going to be a long, hard season for the women as well as the men. Everton down there and Liverpool down there. I mean, maybe the Man United and Everton you got the wrong way around. But apart from that, even at this early doors, you're not a million miles off with those.
Not really, no. I'm looking at the current table itself. Villa's, maybe I'd be a bit harsh on Villa. Maybe they could be a little bit higher, to be fair, but I don't know. Because they're looking quite well. I've actually got West Ham in the correct position as well, and Arsenal.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we will see. Like you said, is that I presume that the WSL is going on during the World Cup?
Yes, it will be. So the majority of the games, when it's while it's Qatar World Cup, they're getting played in the men's grounds. So Man United is playing their home game against Aston Villa at Old Trafford. Then we'll be playing Man City at the Etihad. I think Leicester play all their games at King Power.
Yeah.
And Reading play all their games at their men's ground as well. I don't know what their ground's called, to be honest. So, but I think the majority of the WSL will be playing at the men's ground, because I'm sure Arsenal are actually playing against us at their ground as well in November. Not too sure if the World Cup's on then as well.
I mean, Leicester, in fairness, we've played all our games so far, home games anyway, obviously, at the King Power.
Yeah, that's where you usually play. I think that's pretty good. But the downfall is with Leicester, which a lot of United fans have found, is that, thank you, Mike, is that Leicester wouldn't give Man United an away stand. Even though it's played at a men's ground, they wouldn't give an away stand to us.
Wow. Do you not like sitting with Leicester? Do we smell?
No.
Are we lepers?
I have a problem with sitting with like rival fans, but I think it can cause a bit of disruption, in my opinion. Like, a couple of my friends who I do pods with, they went to West Ham away, and West Ham wouldn't give us an away stand, and then there was nearly a fight because there was a misinterpretation what happened at the ground, and they're the kind of things you want to avoid. And there's a reason, and I always say is, how can you grow the women's game if you're not going to give an away stand?
I mean, all you've got to do is cover a set of seats, and make it separate, don't you?
But the King Power will always have that away stand from the men's.
I suppose from the King Power's point of view, yes, they have got a standard away section, but when it's and obviously all the games are filmed for the FA. I actually wrote to the FA to say, are we allowed to show the games live, on a YouTube channel? And they sent me this amazing thing back with about basically not answering the question at all. But I suppose when they've got they seem to have sort of one camera that they use, unless it's being obviously covered by Sky or Amazon BT, whatever. But when it's just being covered by the FA, they seem to have the one camera, so that they need as many fans, I suppose, opposite to make it look reasonably full. But they could easily, like you say, make an away section.
Mm-hmm. That's what the problem is, isn't it? Like, at first, Arsenal was refusing to give Man United a away stand, and a couple of our people contacted Ian Wright on Twitter and said, like, this is out of order, because Ian Wright is a big advocate, isn't he, for the women's game? And Ian Wright even said, this isn't right, I'll speak to Arsenal. And then a few days later, we got an away stand.
Wow.
We've been requesting for an away stand from Man City since August, when they released the tickets. They only gave us an away stand last week.
I'm surprised that it isn't just standard, that you've got it's an away team coming. I know it's the ladies, and you would hope the supporters are not quite the same idiots sometimes as the men, but you look at it, you think it's so easy to make an away section. Just put it to one side of the stand and put tarpaulin over a few seats between. Anyway, hey, look, we're fans, we talk sense. We don't expect football clubs and the FA to talk sense, do we?
I suppose. And I suppose you look in a way, like, if we obviously play Brighton, didn't we, the other day at home? I doubt like people would travel all the way to Brighton to come to watch a game in Wigan. I suppose you'd probably get like 3 people doing it.
That's true. Mike says he'll be loud in that Leicester away end on the 8th of November when they play us in the Cup. Yeah, but you won't be allowed to take your sheep in, Mike. That's the difference. You'd have to leave it outside. He knows I'm joking. I so wish I still had the sheep sound effect, but I haven't at the moment.
But did you delete it?
Sorry?
Did you delete it?
No, I just don't use it anymore, to be honest with you. There's some things you can only use so often, and then it's never quite the same. And then other things you can just use sort of over and over again, and they'll never stop. They'll just never stop being funny. And I can't think. I'm just trying to. Where is it? This is like this one. Yeah, something you can never delete. You can never delete. You can.
I know you'll never delete that, and I still want commission.
Yeah, I can't afford you. You'll be sending me bankrupt. Maisie, thank you so much for coming on today. Next week, hopefully, Mike said he's well behaved. He'll sit outside. I tell you what, mate, if you can bring down a blue shirt, we'll put him on. Maybe he could play for Leicester. He might win us a game. Maisie, thank you so much. Next week, hopefully, Lou is going to be back. So she's been working this week, bless her. So I should be outnumbered next week. But thank you so much for coming on. Like I do say, your links are in every single YouTube. It's there permanently for your channels. But the only girl I know with 2 underscores, please tell people where they can find you.
Thanks for having me on, Chris. It's been a great show. My YouTube channel is Devils United. Manchester United content for men and women's football. Doing a bit of sporting content on there as well. So you can check that out through there. And my Twitter is Don't Be Like Chris, put the 2 underscores, MUFC Mais.
Let me click the right button there.
I was looking at myself and I was thinking, oh, okay.
Yeah, get your lipstick out, start doing your makeup. Do not forget those 2 underscores. Maisie, I really do appreciate your time. Have a good week. Great, get over onto that channel. You're monetized now, so congratulations on that. Well done on that. And I'm sure we'll speak before, but if not, hopefully, fingers crossed, all well, see you next week.
I hope you don't hate me too much when Man United batter you.
To be honest with you, I feel like we should be sponsored by Ben's Fish and Chip Shop because we get battered wherever we go.
Leicester get battered everywhere they go.
Yes. I can't deny it. The only good thing about the season so far, men or women, is the fact that Forest are down there with us in the men's league.
And that means you'll have to play against each other again in the Championship. That's
possibly. Well, I was talking to Dan earlier. We had Dan on doing a review, of the EPL, and I said we'll be like ships that pass in the night because they'll come back up and we'll go back down. You joke, but it's we're getting ready for it. I'll tell you. All the best, Maisie. Thank you very much. See you next week.
Bye.
Take care. Bye. Thanks so much for Maisie for coming on. Fountain of all knowledge when it comes to women's football. Make sure you get over to her site and give it a subscribe. Mike, thanks very much, mate, for being in. That's another great channel. Get over there. Mike Green, if you like your darts, like I always say, I don't get to the point of it, but if you do like your darts, he does some great, fantastic dart content. And dark? No, did I say dark? I said dart content. And it's great. I mean, as I say, I'm not a darts fan, but if you do like your darts, that's your guy, Mike Green on YouTube. I will see Maisie next Monday. I will see you guys tomorrow at 7 o'clock for the preview show, and then at 9 o'clock for the prediction show. It's nearly Halloween. Oh, yeah.
Happy Halloween. Do try not to die.
Thanks for watching, and if you've been listening on your favourite podcast platform, thank you for lending me your ears. You can have them back now. Good night.
That's all, folks. Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye, and see you next time.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
Leicester Till I Die TV.